Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host, Brett
Gilliland. Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I am your host, Brett Gilliland. Today, I've got Giovanni Dienstmann with me. How you doing?
I'm well, Brett. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you are in Brazil, is that correct? That's where you're living these days?
Yes, I'm here for a few months. I was born and raised in Brazil, but then I migrated to Australia, and I'm back here just for a short period of time.
Nice. What part of Brazil?
It's south of Brazil, Porto Alegre.
Okay. Well, I had a good friend that was a foreign exchange student when I was a senior in high school, and he lives in Brazil. And still, all these years later, we're still in contact with each other here and there. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. And you are a self-discipline coach, meditation teacher, and an author who focuses on the intersection between wisdom, peace, and power, and the creator of Live and Dare, the fifth most popular meditation blog on the planet. That's pretty cool. An author of Mindful Self-Discipline and best-selling book Practical Meditation, which is popularly known as the Meditation Bible, another cool thing. And your newest book, Wise Confidence, came out in March of this year, Overcome Self-Doubt and Build Long-Lasting Self-Esteem. Thanks for being with me. And before we get started, I always like to ask the big question of what's helped make you the man you are today?
Good question. A combination of things, and they are the things that I focus on in my work and that I write about. Believing in myself, believing in my potential, believing on what I can do and what I can achieve. Having the discipline to take massive action towards my goals again and again, consistently. And before anything else, having goals, having a clear aspirations of what I want in my life, and that is the foundation, right? Why would you want to be disciplined or to go after things unless you have a really clear vision for what you want?
That's right. And is that something you've always had your whole life, or is that something you feel like you've built over time?
I was always very much goal oriented. From time to time, goals change. The goals that I have now is different from the goals that I have when I was 18, but I was always very goal-oriented and focused on taking action. Yeah,
that's awesome. Let's talk about this. Your book, like I said, Wise Confidence, Overcome Self-Doubt and Build Lasting Self-Esteem. So let's dive into that. Overcoming self-doubt. I always call it the roommate. We've all got this roommate in our brains, right, that lives with us. And I think sometimes we can listen to that roommate who may be telling us things that we shouldn't be telling ourselves. But I think as humans, we're guilty of that, right? So how do you overcome self-doubt? How are you helping people do that?
Right. And so self-doubt is one extreme. It's when you are your worst enemy. The mind is our main tool in life, and it can be your best friend or it can be your worst enemy, depending on if you know how to use this amazing tool. Mm-hmm. And when you are in the world of self-doubt, you are your worst enemy. Self-doubt is like a virus. It prevents you from doing the things that you want to do. It prevents you from taking meaningful risks in your life, from showing up wholeheartedly. You may still go and do things, but there's always that voice at the back saying, it's not going to work. You're not meant for this. You're not good enough. And that severely limits us in life. It's a very low ceiling. And on the other side of the spectrum, we have overconfidence, which is, being cocky, being pretentious, arrogant. When you think that I've got this, everything's going to be easy, I'm going to achieve my goals quickly. And therefore, you also don't need to show up with all that you've got because you think you're underestimating the challenges. And both of these are limiting. What I call wise confidence is that balanced middle between these two extremes. And that's an idea that comes from Aristotle, that virtue is the balanced mean between two extremes. In wise confidence, you are not underestimating yourself, but you're also not underestimating the journey. You have a healthy dose of respect for the challenges ahead of you. Mm-hmm. And you're just focused on showing up as your best self, with what I call the 5 elements of wise confidence: determination, integrity, self-belief, courage, and optimism. And so you just focus on showing up with these 5 elements, and whatever happens, you learn from it, you get back up, and you continue the journey.
I am writing down my notes here. I like that. A healthy dose of respect for your obstacles, man. That's good, because it's we are going to have them, right? It's going to happen no matter what, and so you might as well have a little healthy dose of respect for those things, and smile at those obstacles. So, when you think of meditation, obviously with having the blog that you've got, the books that you've written, talk to us about the power of meditation, and I don't know how scientific you want to get or can get, but talk to us about that, what it does to us for those listeners that maybe have heard of meditation, but they really don't understand it or haven't embraced it. Can you give us a little history lesson, if you will, on meditation?
Okay. So meditation is a training for the mind. Just like there's physical exercise that is a training for the body, meditation is a training for the mind. And your mind is your key tool in life for you to achieve anything you want in your life. It depends on how is your mind, how well can you make use of your mind. Whatever you're feeling in any given day is determined more by what's going on in your mind than what's going on objectively in that day. And so mastering our mind is really mastering our lives. And this focus on learning how to master the mind has been there in spiritual traditions and philosophical traditions of different countries, different places, different civilizations for a very long time. There are the Buddhists, there are the yogis, there are the Stoics, different traditions emphasize meditation for different purposes. In our modern world, many people want meditation to enjoy better mental health, to perform better at work, to be able to focus, to maybe heal themselves and be better inside their own mind, for personal growth reasons. The key idea of meditation is learning how to master your attention. That attention is the currency of life. More than everyone says that, time is more important than money, because you can use time to make more money. But, once time is gone, it's gone. But even more important than your time is your attention, because you may have all the time in the world, but if your attention is stuck in a dark place in your mind, you're not going to be having a great life. And so the ability to become aware of where our attention is and to refocus our attention on the things that are more constructive, more positive, more aligned with our deeper values, that is one of the core skills that comes from meditation practice.
I love that. So how do you do that? Like what's your type of meditation do you prefer? Or somebody's starting out now, how do we, obviously you just got to build the habit, you got to show up and you got to do it. But how do you build the habit to do it, and what kind of meditation do you recommend?
Yes. It's difficult to recommend one type of meditation for everybody. Most meditation teachers, they have trained in a couple of styles, and that's what they recommend for everybody. I have tried over 80 different styles of meditation. That's why I wrote that book, Practical Meditation, when I explore many of them. So what I have found experimenting all these different styles, it's a little bit like physical exercise. We all need to do physical exercise, but that doesn't mean that going to the gym is the right thing for everybody. It doesn't mean that basketball or running or swimming is the right thing for everybody. Depending on your body type, depending on your interests and personality, one type of exercise is going to be better than the other. And it's the same thing with meditation practice. Some people like focusing on their breath. Some people like repeating a mantra. Some people like closing their eyes and visualizing something. Some people like to gaze at a candle. Some people like to lay down on the floor and do a body scan and go into a deep state of relaxation. These are all different methods. There are a lot of overlapping benefits, but they're also kind of unique. So what I would suggest is that people experiment with different types of meditation, ideally in a somewhat systematic way, and then journal how these different techniques affect them so that they can choose the one or the ones that are most helpful for them.
Yeah. It's for me, I've started meditating I think it was about 11 years ago, and it has totally changed my life, from a lot of anxiousness, nervousness, stuff like that, to now if I'm in that moment, I can meditate in the moment, right? When I'm having that anxiousness or whatever, and I can be in a meeting, I can be in a public forum with, at a baseball game, whatever. And I think just having that in your pocket is a great thing to have. The meditation, the breathing, the slowing down, understanding our body, right? Because it allows more oxygen in the brain, which then lowers your heart rate, which then lowers, the cortisol levels, all that stuff, right? So when you think about meditation, what else are you thinking about from a science level and what it's actually doing to our body?
Well, it's helping us regulate the sympathetic nervous system, the stress, fight, flight, freeze
Yeah.
response. And that's something that is common to all styles of meditation. It's almost like just like doing any type of exercise would be good for your heart rate. Doing any type of meditation would be good for your stress levels. Many years ago, I went through a lot of research around meditation, and I compiled an article called the 76 benefits of meditation. And so it's there for people who want to dive in and see the scientific references for everything. But basically, it's proven to help with anxiety, with stress, with focus, with dealing with aftermath of trauma, many different things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, how do you personally do it? Do you do like a app, or do you just kind of do it on your own now since you're probably an expert at this?
I do it on my own.
Yeah. No app.
If I wanted to experiment a completely new style of meditation, I might go with a guided meditation and do it. But when I started meditating before apps were around, before the iPhone was around,
Yeah.
old school.
You've been doing it for a while.
Yes.
That's fun. You talk about you have a bold promise in my research. It says you can experience peace of mind, purpose, empowerment, and well-being every day of your life, no matter what is happening. So how is that? How can we do that no matter what's happening?
There's this concept that I use in my latest book, Wise Confidence, which is the idea of living inside out. When you're living inside out, you're living based on your decision, based on your values, based on your goals. You're not allowing your outside to determine your inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're rooted in this way of thinking and living, your outside may change. People may come and dump a lot of negativity onto you. An unexpected event may happen that's, put you in a bad situation. All of that can happen in your external life, but still you have the choice of what you want to focus on. You have the choice to how you want to interpret these things. What do they mean? They don't mean anything on their own. You've lost a job. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's what you make of it. Maybe it's the opportunity you needed to try your new career or to become an entrepreneur. Maybe it's a horrible thing and you're never going to get a job as good as that. It depends on you. So when you realize that our life is created by our mind, then you turn your attention on improving the quality of your thoughts and your emotions, and grabbing hold of your attention and being really picky about where you put your attention. The Buddha has said that most people are very diligent about making sure that thieves don't come into their house and steal their stuff. But the same people are not diligent about the thieves of the mind coming inside the mind. The thieves of the mind are things like anger, jealousy, fear, and anxiety. Most people are not, they're not aware that they can live a life without these things, that they can guard their consciousness so that it doesn't go to those places, and so that you navigate life from a different perspective where those emotions are less likely to arise.
Yeah. What is that habit like for you? Is that a morning thing? I'm assuming it's just all day is thinking that way, but like, how do you get yourself in the right mindset on your day and on your journey?
So for me, the formal meditation practice is something that I do every morning. I wake up really early, and at this time I do a very long meditation practice.
Define long. What's that?
3.5 hours.
3.5 hours of meditating.
Right. But
Holy
I'm a
smokes.
meditation teacher, right? And if you're a tennis coach, you have to play tennis, right?
That's
You
right.
have to play a lot of tennis.
So walk us through that. So 3.5 hours. What are you doing?
I do different styles of meditation, but the bulk of it is mantra meditation. I do some visualization. I do some breathing exercises as well. But the bulk of it is mantra. In the past, I was trying other styles. So depending on when we would be having this interview, my answer would be slightly different. But in terms of formal practice, yes, there is that huge block of formal practice. And for most of my meditator's life, it was 50 minutes. I was doing 50 minutes every morning. Then slowly it increased, and I built my business. I got out of the 9 to 5. I had more freedom around my time, and so I was able to do more of what I really enjoy doing. But throughout my day, it's that ongoing practice of observing myself. Observing myself. In meditation, you learn how to observe what your mind is doing. Let's say that you're focusing on your breath. You have an intention at the beginning of the practice. Okay, I'm going to stay focused on my breath. But if you're not observing what your mind is doing, you may notice 20 thoughts down the line that for the past 20 thoughts, you're not with your breath. And you're like, oh, I was supposed to be meditating here, because you're not observing. If you're carefully observing your mind, you may notice 3-4 thoughts down the line. And as your awareness becomes faster, becomes more accurate, more fine-tuned, you may notice immediately, like, oh, I just got distracted here. And so this ability to be really present and to observe yourself, this means that when you are in a heated conversation with a person, you can notice that your body starts to tense up, and then there's an impulse of saying something that you would later regret. Yeah. But because you're present and because you're aware, you can then undo that. You can focus on something else. You can choose to respond differently. Meditation gives you that space.
Is that kind of like almost like an out of body thing? Do you kind of picture yourself out of your brain, if you will, if this is making any sense, and kind of looking back into your brain? Is that how you do that, or how do you personally do that? I'm just trying to think, because I'm the one that's right. Guilty when I meditate, where I'm like, out in right field somewhere thinking about, it's like, oh, okay, that's right. I need to be back here. So what do I need to do, or our listeners need to do, to make sure that we're focused on that breath and not thinking about what I've got to do tonight or tomorrow or next week?
Yes. It's the two key elements of what I teach is awareness and willpower. These are awareness is the mother of all virtues, and willpower is the father of all virtues. If we are cultivating our awareness and willpower, then any other aspect of our personal growth that we want to improve, being better with food, or being more patient, being more compassionate, or focusing better, being more disciplined, whatever it is, it's going to take some awareness training, and it's going to take some willpower training. Yeah. So if you just go and sit in meditation with a vague intention, like, okay, I'm going to relax and focus on my breath, that intention doesn't have a lot of energy about it. It's very low voltage, to use a term that I use in the book. Now, if you sit with a strong intention, and you can even talk with yourself, with your mind, say, mind, in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to stay focused on my breath, and on my breath only. And I'm not going to think about anything else. There is nothing else that you need to do in this moment. Nothing that you need to solve, nothing that you need to remember or figure out. Just stay with the breath. All right, so you start with a much stronger intention about what you want to do. And that impacts the quality of your practice. It means that you're going to be able to stay longer with the object of focus before the mind goes loose with something else, because it has received a stronger instruction.
Yeah. And so that 3.5 hours, so you have your mantra, so that's kind of your self-talk, if you will. And then what else are you doing in there?
There are different mantras that I use, and they're all traditional mantras from the yogic spirituality. And when I'm not doing mantras, I may be focusing. So focusing on the space between the eyebrows. It's a really good place to rest the mind, and the mind gets more naturally focused there. Or I may be doing some specific breathing exercises called pranayama that help us regulate the nervous system, help us go really deep, go into altered states of consciousness.
Can you spell that? What was that called?
Pranayama, Pranayama, pranayama.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
And the research on pranayama is still newer. There's not as much research on pranayama as there is in meditation, but it's growing. There's already some research showing that pranayama is really good, helping veterans deal with trauma from war, for example. Wow. The big athletes in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they have learned pranayama from their martial arts master, and they use that before the fight to allow them to be in the ideal state, where they're not fighting with anger or stress or fear. It's just like you're completely present and focused.
So when you think about that, like, you see people I follow on like Instagram and stuff, you're seeing a lot of this craze of like the 30 fast, deep, deep breaths, and they're going into the cold shower or cold plunge, all that kind of stuff. I mean, what do you think about the deep breaths and all that kind of stuff like that? The fast, quick, deep breaths, like 30 of them in a row.
Are you talking about the Wim Hof technique?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So I met the man. I met him. I went to one of his workshops in Melbourne back in 2016. I did the exercises. I recognized a lot of the techniques that come from yoga that are centuries old is what he's teaching with a little bit of a modification and a
Yeah.
fancy name and a different purpose, right? His purpose is to, hyperventilate so that you can retain your breath for longer, so that you can go into the ice tub. Um, and that's good. It's there are a lot of benefits that come from that. I did that practice. I take cold showers every morning the past 6 or 7 years, and it's great for my health. Cold showers is something that I recommend. There are different types of breathing exercises. I don't do the one that he does. I trained in it during the workshop and I liked it, but it's not my go-to technique.
Yeah. What are you liking about the cold showers? Like, what do you see in those? And do you do the shower, or do you do the plunge as well, or just the shower?
Just a shower, although I'm considering buying one of those tubs that you can
Yeah.
plug in and become really cold. Um, what I like, it's a great way to wake up. It's a great way to feel energized. There was a time in this period of 7 years that I stopped taking cold showers for maybe 5 6 months, and I was noticing that the warm showers they were really not good in my skin, and I wasn't feeling as energized as when I was doing cold showers. And then after those 5 months, I went for a cold shower, and I was like, oh, this feels so great. I mean, it feels painful in a way,
Yeah.
but the way you feel after it, it's great.
Yeah. It is brutal, isn't it? How bad. I mean, I don't think cold plunges ever get easier. It's for me, it's just absolutely brutal. But it's worth
Mhm.
it, because it is one of the things that you do that you do physically feel different when you're done.
Yes. So you practice them daily too?
I don't do them daily. I did do I think I did twice last week. So I need to
Mhm.
do more. I'm a wimp, right? So it's like I'm more of a sauna guy. So I'd rather sit in there and sweat to death practically. And so I'll do that 5 or 6 days a week at 24 minutes in
Mhm.
my sauna at home. And that for me has been a game changer as well, just to get in there. And that's where I do my meditation and thinking. And so I kind of have a process where I'll meditate for 10, 12 minutes in there, and then I read for 10 or 12 minutes in there. And as I always say, 10 pages a day, right? So if I can read 10 pages
Mhm.
a day, get some breathing exercises in. It's not 3.5 hours, so I need to up my ante a little bit here, but it's good. It's just a good process to have, and those days you do it are certainly better than the days you don't do it. So
Yes.
how do you go basing all of your decisions? I guess it's on the quote I heard recently is base your decisions or make your decisions on knowledge, not on emotion. So for you, is it purely the knowledge and the education that you have versus the emotion, or do you get to a point like the rest of us as well that there's days you just quite frankly don't want to do it?
The feeling of not wanting to do it comes from time to time. But when there's a strong decision that I'm just going to do it regardless of how I feel, it seems that after a while your mind gives up. Like, okay, there's no point not wanting to do it
Yeah.
because this guy is going to do it. So
Yep.
it kind of stops. Well, and this is where the 100% gets easier than 99%. If there is a slight chance that some days you will consider not doing, then every day part of your mind is like, oh, maybe today is the day, and then you need to get involved in that inner dialogue versus like, no, I'm going to take a cold shower every day, so I'm never going to consider, is today too cold or don't I have time for it today. I just, it's part of what I do. I made that decision, and that's it. um, there's a metaphor that I like to use here, and it comes from the ancient texts. It's the metaphor of the charioteer. So imagine a charioteer on a chariot, and there are the two horses, and the charioteer is controlling the horses. Now, the horses is the what I call the lower mind. They are our emotions, they are reactive thinking, they are impulses, they are instant gratification. Like if you just leave the horses by themselves, they're just going to go to whatever green field they see. They're going to avoid the road that is difficult, and they're going to take the cart here and there and they're going to break it.
Yep.
Then there's the charioteer who is sitting on the cart and controlling the horses. He's holding the reins and controlling the horses. And those reins are the reins of self-discipline. They are awareness and willpower. And if the charioteer is doing a good job, then it will take everyone to the destination, to the goal or aspiration. And the charioteer is what I call the higher mind, is that aspect of us that makes decisions based on values, based on long-term goals. It considers purpose before pleasure, fulfillment before comfort. And when that part of us is running the show, we are moving forward towards our goals and we're feeling more proud of how we're spending our time. When that guy is sleeping or he can't control the horses and the horses are running the show, when the lower mind is running the show, then you experience distraction, procrastination, excuses, and many challenges. And so that's the difference between your mind being your best friend or your worst enemy.
Yeah, that's solid advice right there. So from a physical standpoint, obviously you got your meditation, you get your cold shower. Exercise wise, what's that process look like for you?
So I practice Kung Fu. I do some Kung Fu dynamic breathing exercises every morning. That takes about 25 minutes. And then once a week, I do 2 hours of like intense Kung Fu exercise where my heartbeat goes up and stays up for almost the whole time.
Wow. Keeps you in shape, doesn't it?
Well, yeah.
So the book's coming out. What do you expect everybody to take away from the book? Wise Confidence. It came out in March of 2024.
So this book is about developing that type of confidence that is more stable and that is more balanced. There are many people out there who need to feel more confident. They want to increase their self-esteem and their self-belief, but they're not really connected to the main narrative around confidence out there that may feel a little bit too, domineering, too kind of strong and ego-based. So this is a different approach. When I was writing this book, I had a look through all the other books on confidence out there. Not all, but all of the main ones. And I noticed that this was something that was missing, this deeper, more mindful, if you wish, approach to wise confidence. But what I wish people would take from this book is that the framework that I'm teaching in this book is useful not only to develop confidence, but to make any change you want to make on yourself. Whatever is the point A and point B, point A is where you are now. Maybe that point A is depression or anxiety or anger, constant bouts of anger. And your point B is your goal in personal development. Oh, I really want to be more calm. I want to be more joyful, or I want to be more compassionate and in control. So you define your journey in personal development from the point A to the point B. And that framework of living inside out is helpful in any of these journeys.
Yeah. So where do our listeners find more of Giovanni? Where do you have a website?
Yes. So my main website these days is mindfulselfdiscipline.com. And there you will learn about my books. There's a blog, there's a YouTube channel, and there's also a newsletter.
Awesome. So we can find it all on there, and then the books obviously on there, and then we'll put the 76 benefits of meditation. I think that's the article that you mentioned that you wrote, right? So we can find that online, and we'll put that in the show notes. Or maybe it's on your website. We'll get it from there. So, well, that's awesome, man. Thanks so much for being on the Circuit of Success. It's been great having you and learning about meditation, and you being, can I call you the godfather of meditation? Is that right?
I'm not sure I'm very comfortable with that, but
okay. Well, it's been great having you, man, and thanks so much for joining me on the Circuit of Success.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brett.